All right, so you have your portrait and you've graphed it out and you have your lines around the shadows and the highlights. You've outlined everything, okay? And so I've done that here. The only thing that you don't see on my paper is a graph, right? Because before you ever start shading, you need to erase that grid. If you have that grid on there and you start shading and then you go later erase it, you're gonna have that great big grid over your face. Now, for my classes, I think it's okay for you to use a pencil like this to draw your lines with. But when it comes to shading with a pencil like this, it's a tiny little lead. If I have just a normal lead, see how big I can make those marks compared to those? So yes, you can shade with one of these if you want to be there all day, but you want to shade, and then I've given you a darker pencil even, and it has an even bigger lead. Do you notice the size difference? And so then you can really get some big areas. But one thing I notice as I watch first-time shaders is that they don't tend to get dark enough with their picture. If you look at this, this is really dark. I'd say 90% of this picture is some darker value shading, and so you'd really have to push your darks. What I'm going to suggest is you start out shading, and you can see all these lines even if you shade over them. So I'm not going to do the whole thing for you, but I'm just lightly, I'm not even pushing on my pencil. You can see how I'm holding it. You're just going to lightly shade over your entire picture. And you're going to say, well, Mr. Kimball, what about the highlights? Well, this is going to be subtractive drawing. I've already suggested to you in the past that subtractive drawing is when we take our eraser and we erase in the highlights and the light areas. Just to remember, we did a lesson on hatching in the past, hatching and cross hatching. So if you just change the angle of your pencil just a little bit and you're dragging across your paper, you get your lines really close together, it'll start to look smooth. But I would like you to just take a tissue like this and just lightly, don't push hard, just kind of blend that in. So this is after I did it really lightly. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about my lines because my lines are darker than anything else. And I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and shape it to what I need to. And then I know I have a highlight on the nose here. I'm going to erase that highlight in. I've got highlights above his eyebrows. And I can erase some of these on his forehead too in. And because you can shape this, you can get small areas or bigger areas. Now, I'm just demonstrating. I'm not going to finish this for you because it would take me hours, right? But let's say I do another layer over his mustache. He has a lot of hair, and I suggested that you don't need to do every single hair, just the outlines of the hairs, right? Just where that mustache ends. So I'm going to do another layer, and this is how you get things dark, is you layer it with your pencil. I could smudge this again. I'm not going to take too much time on it, but I'm going to take my eraser, and maybe I start erasing a few of those prominent hairs in with the eraser. And again, I'm not worried about every hair, but sometimes if you want to make that look real, you're just going to go create a little bit of a shadow on the side of a few of those hairs. Maybe you add some more dark in there. But even this is still not dark enough. And so eventually, as you layer this, the more you layer it, the darker it gets. But I need to switch, after I've layered 2 or 3 times, I need to switch to this shading pencil. It's a 6B, and some of you have an 8B. But what I'm going to do is get in there and really start adding my dark values. Now, if I push too hard with this, we can see that the paper will get shiny. It may even ruin the paper, right? So do you see how shiny that gets? This one would do the same thing, this number 2 pencil. But you build it up if you want it dark. And then keep erasing into your picture as you go, so that it, and if you want to smudge that, that's okay too. But you're following those shadows that you outlined and the highlights that I've taught you to do. Okay, so that is the end of your shading lesson for our portrait.